For the first time in 40 years, Formula One returns to Las Vegas with an event that was surrounded from controversy since the very beginning. From the Spider Pig-like track layout, to the absurd start times for cars on racetrack, to the over-the-top driver productions and overall aura of F1 in Las Vegas, while at the same time basically throwing the locals of the Las Vegas area through the mud. But with all that taking place just leading up to the race on Saturday night, many supporters of the Las Vegas Grand Prix were hoping that on Thursday night, when we would finally see cars on the racetrack, that they would get some supporters back on their side. Well, I'm pretty sure if you noticed, it went the exact opposite of what you were thinking. 8 minutes, that's all it took, 8 minutes into FP1 for all hell to break loose. Carlos Sainz on Las Vegas Strip ran over a loose drainage cover and destroyed the floor of his Ferrari, effectively killing his race car entirely and also killing practice as a whole. Because of the fact that the drainage came loose, completely came off, Formula One and the FIA were forced to end practice early, again just 8 minutes into it to fix the drain. Now then conflicting reports ensued about F1 was saying that it was just this one single drainage that came loose, while the FIA were saying that there were multiple drainage covers that were loose or weren't properly sealed around the racetrack. Regardless of what happened, fans were pissed, and rightfully so, especially also Carlos Sainz and Ferrari. They're saying that it was unacceptable, that it was going to cost a fortune to be able to fix it. The damage was so severe that a hole could be seen through the cockpit onto the floor of the racetrack. That's how big and severe the damage was. Now, Carlos Sainz wasn't the only driver that had damage. Esteban Ocon and his Alpine was the first to actually run over that drainage cover, and he also had damage to the chassis of his Alpine car. Now, according to motorsport.com, there was around 30 of these drainage covers that weren't properly sealed that the racetrack went over to cover. They did this by filling them in a mixture of asphalt and resin that is hoped that will keep them in place sufficiently when the cars are running over them at top speed on such a long straight. Now, the reason as to why these covers came loose in the first place is because the amount of downforce that F1 cars produce at such high speeds when they're driving along the Las Vegas Strip basically just sucked the covers right out from the ground. Now, this caused FP1 to not be resumed to end after just 8 minutes, and they did go ahead and eventually supposedly fix all the seals around the racetrack. However, as a result of the repairs, FP2 was delayed tremendously. At first it was 2 in the morning, and then it was delayed even further back to 2:30 in the morning local time. That's 5:30 in the morning for people like me in the East Coast. And this is on a Thursday night / Friday night, a time when people are trying to go to sleep to get ready for work or whatever they have to do in the morning. I understand that Las Vegas is a city that never sleeps, but for Thursday night, Friday morning, should be a little more considerate. Now, eventually they were able to get FP2 underway, and because of the delay, Ferrari was able to eventually repair Carlos Sainz's car, and he actually ran really good. Him and his teammate Charles Leclerc finished 1-2. They were 1-2 fastest in FP2, with Fernando Alonso coming up in 3rd place. However, even though it was something that was not the fault of Carlos Sainz or Ferrari, but rather the fault of Formula One and the FIA, they still decided to hand Carlos Sainz a 10-place grid penalty for fixing the car, which had damage to the engine, energy store, and control electronics, as well as the survival cell. So yeah, nice one, Formula One. You make a mistake and you still will not accept responsibility for it. Wonderful. But the wild thing about this is that they did it in front of 0 fans. Now, they had very little fans to begin with in FP1, but in FP2, no fans were in attendance because the Las Vegas officials forced them to leave. According to their social media platforms, they said, due to logistical considerations for our fans and our staff, we have made the determination that we will be closing all Las Vegas Grand Prix fan areas at 1:30 a.m. Fans have had to leave the fan areas due to security team shifts ending, which means the grandstands and fan zones cannot operate as expected. Now, this part is just unacceptable for race fans, considering the fact that they paid hundreds, some of them even thousands of dollars just to enter into the event, to see 8 minutes of cars on the racetrack and force them to go home. No refunds, nothing. At the very least, F1 Vegas, I mean, you clearly have the money. You spent almost $500 million in preparing for this event, so you clearly had the money to be able to at the very least compensate the little fans that showed up for free practice. And then Toto Wolff had just had to open his stupid mouth and just come out with just garbage about the event. When asked a question about whether or not that the drainage coming loose and ending FP1 was a disaster or a black eye to the sport, Toto, who very angrily, with more passion than he had for Abu Dhabi 2 years ago, which, I don't know, I feel you should have had more passion there than you did for this one, but anyways, I digress. He said that it was not a black eye on the sport and that it was nothing. It's a Thursday night, a free practice session 1 that we're not doing, and that nobody will be talking about it tomorrow morning. Yo, Toto, just make sure you hear this. Nobody is talking about anything but the drainage covers, you idiot. He goes on to say that it's completely ridiculous and that how can you even dare try to talk bad about the event that sets the new standards to everything. New standards to everything, so kind of like gouging the people that want to attend the event for overpriced stuff, like for the fact that a freaking shirt or a hat can cost an upwards of $90 to $110. I mean, for God's sakes, for an F1 hoodie, you could spend that for a 4-day weekend at the Rolex 24 garage VIP passes and everything. Great standards, love the new standards that we're holding up here. Then he just shot himself in the foot with the next part in his quote when he said that you're speaking about a drain cover that's been undone. That has happened before, that's nothing, it's FP1. Toto, I don't understand if you realize how stupid you made yourself by saying that. It's happened before, and he's right. It happened, I believe, in Sepang, I think in 2017 or 2016. It happened also on another street course in Baku in 2018 or 2019. It's happened before, so you would think that with a year or so worth of preparation, you would think that, street course racing, maybe one of the things that you focus on is the actual course layout and if it's ready to be able to handle F1 cars. Again, like you said, Toto, it's happened before, so why wasn't this checked? Apparently, F1 and the FIA did do a trial run or did do a test run to see if the track was ready, but they did it at like the 11th hour and it wasn't thoroughly processed. It was rushed over. Hence why 8 minutes into it, the track basically came apart. This is something that should have been dealt with months prior. The more I look at this event, the more I see this event, the more angry I get. And I'm an F1 fan. I want this event to be a success. But to me, when I see how everything has been handled, to me, it's more of a cash grab. It seems like it's more focused on the show than rather the stuff that's actually important, which is the racing. There's a balance. You have to be both entertaining and also provide good racing. You have to be able to have a good show and a good race. So far, all I'm seeing is that F1 is focused on the show, on the experience, the wow factor, rather than the basic fundamentals of racing, and that is the track, making sure that the track is up to standards to be able to handle this stuff. But then again, this is the same guy that wanted the halo removed and said that the explosions in Saudi Arabia was culturally normal. And let's be honest with ourselves, if that was his Mercedes, if that was Lewis Hamilton or George Russell that was having that problem, he would go ape shit crazy over it. But because it's Ferrari, it's nothing. Give credit to the people that set up the Grand Prix. It's a shame that the car's broken. Oh, shut up and just keep eating your pumpernickel. We'll see what happens in the second night of F1 in Las Vegas. Tonight will be FP3, followed up by qualifying later. Hopefully it goes on better than what happened on Thursday night. I want this event to be a success. I'm not going to be the type of person that is wishing on F1's downfall. I'm not wishing for this event to go burn down in flames, but look at how F1 have handled it from start to finish, how they've handled it with the locals, how they've handled it with the pricing of everything. It just feels more like a cash grab. Anytime they've put up blinders around the entire area so that unless you pay thousands of dollars, put a second mortgage on your house or sell your left kidney to be able to watch this race, you are not allowed to have any, not even a peek, a sliver of a view of the racetrack. So much so that is literally changing how people view Las Vegas as a whole, because F1 and Las Vegas are putting up so much blinders everywhere that is constructing even the normal views of Vegas as a whole. It's almost like they're trying to create their own little utopia around a city that's already filled with tourists that are trying to just have their normal day. I understand that every street course has their problems. NASCAR in Chicago, they had their problems. They weren't expelled from any issues, but look at how they've handled it. Look at how IndyCar handles Detroit or Nashville compared to how F1 has handled Las Vegas. It is night and day. I hope that the next two events of F1 in Las Vegas goes well, but to me, it is exactly what Max Verstappen said. 99% show, 1% sport. This, to me, is just all about the money, all about just trying to cash in on the American boom of F1 and not focus more on the actual important part of F1, which is racing.